Every 3 years, Filipinos aged 18 and up dive into the exciting world of democracy. Yup, it's voting day. You line up at the precinct, grab a ballot, and shade in those ovals like you're tackling a high-stakes Scantron test. You'll be voting for 12 senators, one party list group, one district rep, and all the local officials that apply. You can leave some positions blank, but don't overvote as you will not be asked for a replacement. And be careful not to drop your sweat there. When it's all said and done, you get that iconic indelible ink on your finger, your badge of democracy. And guess what? This whole thing is happening again this Monday, where you and about 69 million others, nice, will have a say in shaping the 20th Congress of the Republic of the Philippines. But let's get real. Are you excited or are you just exhausted? Because, come on! The surveys already laid out the results and the trend seems set. And your social media feeds are packed with your friends' political hot takes, some insightful and some kind of questionable. At this point, you might be thinking, why should I even care? Especially when real change, like say a new constitutional convention, feels like one of those sana all dreams that probably just stay in the wishful thinking pile forever. Maybe it's time we take a moment and ask, is the system actually working? If you've ever casually flipped through any country's constitution, or just the Philippine one because it's a requirement for senior high or college unless you're majoring in pol sci, you'll catch something pretty interesting. Right after the preamble, the Bill of Rights, and all the stuff about sovereignty, citizenship, suffrage, boom! Congress, Parliament, or whatever name a country calls its legislative body. Why is that? Because these guys make the rules. Lawmakers aren't just there to wear barongs or turno and clap during sauna. They create, debate, and pass laws that shape the country. If the executive branch, aka the president, is the quote driver unquote of the government, then the legislature is the one writing the GPS directions. Most legislatures are either unicameral, one chamber, or bicameral, two chambers. Ours is the latter, which means we have the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives is where lawmakers are meant to stay close to the people. It consists of district representatives and party list representatives with about a 4-to-1 ratio. For this election, the country is divided into 254 districts, electing each one representative through a simple plurality vote. Basically, whoever gets the most votes wins. Originally, our 1987 constitution only had 200 districts, but over the years, more have been added through redistricting, new provinces, and new cities. Technically, a national redistricting should happen every census every 5 years. But surprise, that hasn't actually happened. Instead, Congress just adds districts whenever it's convenient. Some places have been seen huge population growth but still have same single representative since the constitution was put in place. Meanwhile, some new cities with just 250,000 people can get their own district. More on that in a bit. The party list segment was meant to give marginalized sectors a voice. At first, the president picks sectoral representatives, but in 1998, the Party List System Act switched it into an election-based system. Back then, until 2007, voters need to remember and write the party list. Now, since 2010, they pick one out of hundreds of groups on the other face of the ballot. Any party list group that scores at least 2% of the national vote gets a seat, with a max of 3 seats. Supreme Court rulings eventually adjusted the formula so that all available party list seats get filled. But thanks to the 2013 SC ruling, traditional politicians and dynasties found a way to game the system, turning it a political playground and an extension rather than a platform for marginalized voices. Thus, watchdog groups like Contradaya have been calling out these serious abuses for years. But honestly, the outrage cycle lasts about as long as the trending X, formerly Twitter topic. Now let's get back to that lazy gerrymandering. In a normal democracy, district boundaries are adjusted based on population changes. It's a constant change. In the Philippines, not really. Some districts have exploded in size, others have barely grown, and their borders haven't changed in decades. Does Congress have the power to redraw districts? Technically, yeah. By law, they're supposed to do it within 3 years after each census, which by the way happens every 5 years. You might even see a sticker on your main door saying you were officially counted, and you're not supposed to scrape it off until the designated date. But here's the catch. Ever since our national statistics agency, the Philippine Statistics Authority, released its latest census results, Congress has done absolutely nothing. No sweeping nationwide redistricting law, voila, bokya. The only time new districts pop up is when the new provinces or cities are formed, or when certain areas get minor tweaks. Other countries have independent commissions that manage redistricting fairly. Here, it's Congress through Republic Acts. And let's be real, they're never gonna just hand over their power. Some lawmakers, when they hit their 3-term limit, try a sneaky move, splitting their district or creating a new province so their pals or family members can run while they, quote, switch places, unquote, with them. Meanwhile, others who'd rather hang on their turf just pretend the whole issue isn't happening. Now here's just a thought. What if Comelec took care of redistricting instead? A team of brainy nerds and statisticians crafting fair, population-based district maps with no funny business. Sounds good, right? Just too bad, lawmakers would fight it if as it is a matter of life and death. Also, I think the census should be conducted every 10 years instead of 5. Oh, and just so you know, someone on Reddit actually redrew the congressional districts properly using the latest census data. Because if the Congress won't do it, the internet will. Now onto the Senate, aka the more flashier and often more heated chamber of Congress. We've got 20% senators who are elected at large, which means they represent the entire country from Batanes to Tawi-Tawi and even qualified overseas Filipinos rather than specific regions. Their term, 6 years with elections every 3 years for half the seats. Sounds stable, right? Well, not exactly. Senators can serve 2 consecutive terms, then must wait 3 years before running again. It's like a cooldown period in a video game, except instead of being out of play, they just find another government position to hold while they wait to run again. Only the Grim Reaper would nerf them permanently. Here's the kicker. At-large elections favor the rich and famous. Cash and name recall matter more than real and intended policies or debates, which some candidates dodge like they're allergic to accountability. Meanwhile, the super qualified but lesser known candidates, good luck getting noticed. And if you're watching from Cordillera or Bangsamoro, good luck trying to snag a Senate seat. Even if every voter from your area backed their native sons or daughters, Luzon's voting power would totally overshadow you. We call that the Lingayen-Lucena corridor. That's why Teddy Bagirat or any Kiram has a tough road ahead. The former probably took a look at all this and thought, might as well run as a party list instead. Can't really blame him. If you're wondering, wait, how many legislators should we even have? Great question. Believe it or not, there are some math models that help figure out how big our legislature should be. 2 key rules come into play, the cube root rule and the geometric mean rule. Before I dive into those rules a little deeper, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss out on all the exciting content we have coming up on this channel. Do you ever heard of the cube root law? It's an interesting concept in political science that was introduced by Estonian political scientist Rein Taagepera back in 1972. Basically, it suggests that the ideal size of a country's lower house should be around the cube root of its total population. Let's simplify it a bit with a simple analogy. Imagine the board of directors of a fictional company, Bayan Corporation, deciding to set up a democratic governance system. They go for a lower house which represents all employees and an upper house representing major divisions like finance, marketing, and operations. If Bayan Corp has 8,000 employees, the cube root law says its lowest house should have 20 representatives because the cube root of 8,000 is 20. Now, let's look at the Philippines. With the estimated population this year about 116 million, the cube root, roughly 488 representatives, which is way more than our current House of Representatives and even what the Constitution technically allows. To play it safe, it makes sense to use the cube root of the 2000 census figures, since the folks counted back then are definitely old enough to vote today. That would give us a safe minimum of about 424 members. So, should we fix the party list system or abolish it? You, the future CODCON delegate, get to make that call. Don't look to me for answers. Drop it in the comments for your opinion. People who support this first mathematical model say that a bigger house would lead to optimal representation and stronger connections between lawmakers and their constituents. Now that the first question is settled, we now ask the second. What about the Senate? Using the buy-in corporation example, the upper house could represent major divisions like finance, sales, and so on, making sure that the key sectors always get a say in decision making. Now let's think about our Senate. Instead of electing 24 senators at large, which mainly helps out well-known and well-funded candidates, or 12 every election cycle, we could switch to a regional representation model, kind of like Indonesia's Regional Representative Council, the US Senate, or Germany's Bundesrat. With 18 administrative regions, a region-based Senate would make it easier to handle local concerns fairly. I mean, can a senator from Central Luzon advocate well for Mindanao's peace process? And how effective can a senator from Manila be in pushing for indigenous people's rights in the Cordilleras? So how many senators should we have? This is where the geometric mean rule comes into play. To find the Goldilocks number for the upper chamber, we calculate the geometric mean of the size of the lower house and the number of regions. With 18 regions and about 420 representatives, that gives us around 90 senators. Or we can just round down to 72, which is 4 senators per region and 3 times the current size. The exact number per region and how to choose them could be hashed out in a hypothetical constitutional convention. And with that new controversial Senate building in Taguig will definitely come in handy. Now I know some people might object to keeping the upper house even if it gets reformed. Could we toss all of this? You may, but let's be honest. The need for an upper house to slow things down and polish off the frenzied legislation from the lower house is super important, even if most folks don't realize it. Plus, a lot of federal countries go for bicameral legislatures for a reason. So what now? Expanding Congress, or whatever you're thinking about when it comes to legislatures, can seem pretty daunting. More politicians means more cost, and that can lead to bigger corruption risk. But sticking with this status quo of a broken system just means more folks getting left out, more political families running things, and more standstill. With the elections just around the corner, maybe it's time to ponder. 1. Is our current system truly doing its job for us? 2. Could reforms like independent redistricting or having a regional senate make things fair for everyone? And 3. If we ever get a constitutional convention, what should we generally push for? If we don't start asking these questions now, we might find ourselves filling in those same ovals in another 3 years, still wondering why nothing ever changes. And when you're looking back on your life, you might regret not digging a little deeper. So, future ConCon delegates, what are you gonna do? Your move! Thanks for sticking around. If you find this interesting, hit like, share, and subscribe. And on May 12, 2025, make sure your voice is heard. Or maybe not. Basta, that's up to you na. See you in the next video!